Few songwriters were as brutally honest about music as John Lennon. Even at the height of the Beatles' fame, Lennon rarely handed out praise lightly, not to other artists, and certainly not to his own bandmates. If he believed a song worked, it was because it carried something deeper than pop success, structure, emotion, or musical invention. Yet throughout interviews in the 1970s, Lennon occasionally singled out certain Beatles songs with a surprising level of admiration. Sometimes it was the writing, sometimes it was the atmosphere created in the studio, and sometimes it was simply the feeling that the song had captured something timeless. These are 10 Beatles songs John Lennon said were pure genius. Number 10, Things We Said Today, 1964.
You will love me if
Released during the whirlwind of Beatlemania, Things We Said Today might easily have been overlooked among the brighter pop hits surrounding it. But Lennon recognized something unusual inside the song. Written primarily by Paul McCartney, the track carried a darker emotional weight than most Beatles material of the time. Instead of celebrating young love in simple terms, the lyrics introduced a sense of distance and uncertainty.
you'll be thinking of me somehow.
The song shifts between present happiness and a reflective future, imagining a time when today's promises will already belong to memory. Musically, Lennon admired the contrast between the quiet verses and the sudden lift of the chorus. That structural tension gave the track a slightly melancholic tone, something rarely heard in the band's early catalog. Years later, Lennon admitted that McCartney had written a song that felt more sophisticated than people realized at the time.
Wishing you weren't so far away.
Producer George Martin also helped shape that atmosphere during the recording at Abbey Road. The restrained acoustic arrangement and subtle dynamic shifts allowed the emotional undercurrent to remain front and center. Looking back, Lennon believed the song hinted at where the Beatles would soon go creatively. What seemed like another Beatlemania-era love song was quietly revealing a band already thinking beyond pop formulas. And for Lennon, that quiet ambition made Things We Said Today a small but undeniable piece of songwriting genius. Number 9, Hey Jude, 1968.
Jude, don't make it bad.
When Paul McCartney first played Hey Jude to the band in 1968, it was immediately clear that the song was something unusual. At over 7 minutes long, it defied nearly every rule of radio-friendly pop music. Yet for John Lennon, the track represented something close to perfection.
Take a sad song and make it.
The song had originally been written by McCartney as a message of comfort to Julian Lennon during the painful breakup between Lennon and Cynthia Lennon. What began as a quiet piano ballad gradually evolved into one of the most emotionally powerful recordings the band ever made. Lennon later admitted that he believed the song was one of McCartney's finest achievements as a songwriter. What impressed him most was the emotional directness of the lyrics. Unlike many Beatles songs built around clever wordplay, Hey Jude spoke with a rare simplicity. In the studio, producer George Martin initially questioned whether the extended na 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 coda might be too long for a single. But Lennon strongly disagreed. He believed the repetitive finale was precisely what gave the song its hypnotic power. As the band gradually layered voices, piano, drums, and orchestra, the track transformed from a personal message into something almost communal. A shared emotional release. Lennon later reflected that the brilliance of the song came from McCartney's instinct to trust the melody and let it breathe.
The minute you let her under your skin.
Rather than forcing complexity, the track allowed a simple idea to grow naturally into one of the most recognizable endings in music history. For Lennon, that kind of confidence, writing something deceptively simple, yet emotionally universal, was the mark of genuine songwriting genius. Number 8, Michelle, 1965.
My bell, these are words that go.
Among the many melodic experiments written by Paul McCartney in the mid-1960s, few impressed John Lennon quite like Michelle. At first glance, the song seemed almost playful in origin. McCartney had originally created the melody years earlier as a kind of musical joke, performing a mock French love song at Liverpool art school parties. But when the Beatles began shaping material for their 1965 album Rubber Soul, the idea returned, this time with a more serious intention. The finishing touch came from Lennon himself.
Michelle, my belle.
Struggling to complete the lyric, McCartney turned to Lennon for help. Lennon famously contributed the line, "I love you, I love you, I love you," which became one of the song's emotional anchors.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
Despite the song's gentle tone, Lennon later admitted that he admired the sophistication of the composition. The unusual chord progression, combined with the mixture of English and French lyrics, gave the track a sense of elegance rarely heard in mainstream pop at the time. Producer George Martin emphasized that elegance in the studio, guiding the band toward a restrained arrangement built around acoustic guitar, bass, and subtle vocal harmony. The result was something closer to a European chanson than a traditional rock song. For Lennon, what made Michelle impressive was its musical confidence. McCartney had written a melody that felt effortless, but was actually harmonically complex, a balance few pop writers could achieve. Looking back, Lennon acknowledged that the track represented one of McCartney's most refined moments as a composer. And within the broader landscape of Rubber Soul, it helped signal a band increasingly willing to stretch beyond the boundaries of conventional rock and roll. Number 7. Help. 1965.
I need somebody help, not just anybody.
By 1965, life inside the Beatles had begun to change dramatically. The screaming crowds, relentless touring schedules, and global fame had turned what once felt like adventure into something far more overwhelming. And according to John Lennon, Help was the first Beatles song where he openly admitted how difficult that experience had become. Written primarily by Lennon for the band's second feature film, the song initially appeared to be another upbeat pop single. Its bright tempo and energetic arrangement gave little indication of the vulnerability hidden beneath the surface. But Lennon later revealed that the lyrics were completely sincere. He once described Help as a genuine cry for support during a period when fame had begun to feel isolating. The line, "Won't you please, please help me," wasn't written as a clever hook. It reflected the emotional pressure he was quietly experiencing at the time. Producer George Martin helped shape the final recording into something that balanced urgency with accessibility. The fast tempo, tight harmonies, and crisp guitar lines ensured the track would still function as a radio hit.
When I was younger, so much younger than...
Years later, he admitted that he had always been proud of Help because it captured a rare moment of honesty within the Beatles' early catalog. It wasn't just a catchy single. For Lennon, it was one of the first times the band allowed real emotion to break through the machinery of Beatlemania. And that sincerity was precisely what made the song feel like genuine songwriting genius. Number 6, I Am the Walrus, 1967.
You are he as you are me, and we are all together.
Few Beatles songs captured the wild imagination of John Lennon quite like I Am the Walrus. Written during the band's increasingly experimental period in 1967, the song emerged from Lennon's growing fascination with absurdity, surrealism, and the idea of deliberately confusing his audience. Part of the inspiration came from a letter Lennon received from a student at his old school in Liverpool, explaining that teachers were analyzing Beatles lyrics in class. The idea amused him. If people were going to search for hidden meanings, Lennon decided he might as well give them something impossible to decode.
See how they run like pigs from a gun, see how they fly.
The result was a deliberately chaotic collage of strange imagery, Semolina Pilchard, Eggman, and the now famous declaration, I am the walrus. Yet behind the nonsense, Lennon believed the song was one of the band's most inventive recordings. Working alongside producer George Martin, the Beatles constructed a dense sonic landscape filled with orchestral arrangements, layered vocals, and unusual studio effects.
Sitting on a cornflake.
Martin expanded the track with strings, brass, and a choir, turning Lennon's surreal composition into something almost theatrical. Toward the end of the recording, A live BBC radio broadcast of Shakespeare's King Lear was accidentally mixed into the track, adding yet another unexpected layer. Instead of removing the broadcast, Lennon decided to keep it.
Sitting on a cornflake.
For Lennon, that unpredictability was precisely the point. I Am the Walrus wasn't meant to follow the rules of songwriting. It was meant to challenge them. And because it turned chaos into something strangely compelling, Lennon later regarded the track as one of the Beatles' most brilliantly unconventional creations. Number 5 came Across the Universe, 1968.
Blowing out like endless rain into a paper cup.
Among all the songs John Lennon ever wrote, few carried the quiet, meditative beauty of Across the Universe. Unlike many Beatles compositions shaped through studio experimentation, the song arrived almost effortlessly. Lennon later recalled that the melody and words seemed to flow out of him in a single burst after a restless night at home.
They slither wildly as they slip away.
The inspiration came from an argument with Yoko Ono. Unable to sleep, Lennon found phrases forming in his mind, fragments that eventually became the opening line. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. What impressed Lennon most about the song was the sense that it had written itself. He once described it as one of the rare moments when a composition felt completely pure, arriving almost fully formed without the usual struggle. The hypnotic refrain, Jai Guru Deva Om, borrowed from Sanskrit, reflected Lennon's growing interest in Eastern philosophy and meditation during the late 1960s. In the studio, producer George Martin approached the recording with a delicate touch.
Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through.
The arrangement centered around Lennon's acoustic guitar and gentle vocal performance, allowing the reflective mood of the lyrics to remain undisturbed. Later mixes would add subtle orchestration and atmospheric textures, but the emotional core of the song always remained its simplicity. Despite its serene beauty, Lennon later expressed some frustration with the original recording, believing the track had never been captured quite as perfectly as he imagined.
Nothing's gonna change my world.
Still, he never doubted the strength of the composition itself. For Lennon, Across the Universe represented a rare moment of clarity, a song where the words, melody, and atmosphere seemed to align effortlessly. And because of that almost spiritual sense of inspiration, he often regarded it as one of the most genuinely beautiful songs the Beatles ever created. Number 4, A Day in the Life, 1967.
The news today, oh boy.
For John Lennon, A Day in the Life represented one of the rare moments when everything inside the Beatles aligned perfectly. Released as the closing track of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song stood apart from almost anything else the band had recorded. It was darker, more cinematic, and far more ambitious than a typical pop composition.
About a lucky man who made the grade.
Lennon wrote the opening sections after reading a newspaper article about the death of Guinness heir Tara Brown in a car accident. The strange mixture of ordinary news and surreal observation fascinated him. Lines like, "I read the news today, oh boy," captured the unsettling feeling of watching everyday events unfold with quiet detachment.
And though the news was rather sad,
The song might have remained a haunting Lennon ballad if not for the collaboration with Paul McCartney, who contributed the contrasting middle section about the routine rush of morning life. Instead of choosing between the two ideas, producer George Martin devised an extraordinary solution. To bridge the gap between the two sections, Martin assembled a 40-piece orchestra and instructed the musicians to begin at their lowest notes and gradually climb to the highest point possible. The result was the now famous orchestral crescendo, a rising wave of sound that seemed to dissolve reality itself.
and though the news was rather sad,
Even by the Beatles' experimental standards, the moment was astonishing. The track ended with another bold decision, a massive piano chord struck simultaneously by multiple players and allowed to ring into near silence. For Lennon, the recording captured exactly what the Beatles had become during the late 1960s, a group no longer limited by traditional songwriting rules. A Day in the Life wasn't simply a song,
He blew his mind out in a car.
It was a piece of musical storytelling that merged dream, reality, orchestration, and studio experimentation into something entirely new. And for Lennon, that daring ambition made it one of the most brilliant creations the Beatles ever produced. Number 3. Strawberry Fields Forever, 1967.
Down, 'cause I'm going to.
Few songs defined the creative leap of the Beatles quite like Strawberry Fields Forever. For John Lennon, the track was deeply personal, a reflection on childhood, memory, and the strange distance that fame had created between his past and present.
Strawberry field.
The title refers to Strawberry Field, a Salvation Army children's home located near the house where Lennon grew up in Liverpool. As a boy, he would often wander into the gardens behind the building, escaping there to think or simply watch the world quietly unfold. Years later, those memories returned while Lennon was filming How I Won the War in Spain in 1966. The song he began writing there felt unlike anything he had attempted before. Instead of a traditional narrative, the lyrics drifted through fragments of thought and emotion. Lines such as, "No one I think is in my tree," suggested the uneasy feeling of being misunderstood, a theme Lennon would explore repeatedly in later songs.
Nothing to get hung about.
Yet the true genius of the track emerged in the studio. Working alongside producer George Martin, the Beatles recorded 2 completely different versions of the song. One slow and dreamlike, the other more rhythmic and orchestrated. Unable to choose between them, Lennon asked Martin to combine both takes into a single recording. Technically, the idea was almost impossible.
Strawberry fields forever.
The 2 performances existed in different keys and tempos, yet through careful tape manipulation and engineering ingenuity, Martin and engineer Jeff Emmerich managed to merge them seamlessly. The result was a recording that sounded both surreal and emotionally intimate, a sonic landscape where memory and imagination seemed to blur together. For Lennon, Strawberry Fields Forever captured something he had long been searching for, a way to translate the strange inner world of his thoughts directly into sound. And because it turned childhood reflection into one of the most innovative recordings of the 1960s, Lennon often regarded the song as one of the Beatles' most extraordinary achievements. Number 2, In My Life, 1965.
Says I remember all my life.
Among the many songs written by John Lennon during the mid-1960s, In My Life remained one of the few he openly described with genuine pride. By the time the Beatles began working on Rubber Soul in 1965, Lennon had started moving beyond the simple love songs that had defined the band's early success. Instead, he began searching for something more personal, songs that reflected memory, identity, and the passage of time.
Forever, not for better.
Soon, Lennon began reflecting on the places that had shaped his childhood in Liverpool, streets, friends, and moments that had quietly disappeared as fame carried him further from home. The result was a song that felt strikingly mature for a 24-year-old songwriter. In the studio, producer George Martin added one of the song's most memorable elements, a Baroque-style keyboard solo. Without a harpsichord available, Martin recorded the part on piano at half speed and played it back faster, giving the passage its distinctive classical sound. For Lennon, In My Life represented a turning point.
Places have their moments.
And because it introduced a deeper emotional voice into the Beatles' songwriting, Lennon often regarded the track as one of the most important and genuinely brilliant compositions the band ever recorded. Number 1, Here, There, and Everywhere, 1966.
I need my love to be here.
When discussions about the finest love songs in the catalog of the Beatles arise, Here, There, and Everywhere almost inevitably enters the conversation. Written primarily by Paul McCartney during the sessions for Revolver in 1966, the song represented a level of melodic sophistication that even impressed his longtime writing partner John Lennon. The inspiration behind the song was relatively simple. McCartney wrote it as a gentle expression of devotion to his girlfriend at the time, Jane Asher. Yet what elevated the track beyond a standard love song was the remarkable elegance of its melody and harmony. From the opening vocal phrase, the song drifts with a quiet grace, built around subtle chord changes that move in unexpected directions without ever losing their sense of calm.
Each day of the year.
Unlike many pop songs of the era, which relied on obvious hooks and repetition, Here, There, and Everywhere unfolded almost like a piece of chamber music. Each melodic phrase flowed naturally into the next, creating a sense of emotional continuity. In the studio, producer George Martin helped the band craft a delicate arrangement that matched the song's atmosphere. Layered vocal harmonies and gentle guitar lines created a soft sonic landscape, allowing McCartney's melody to remain the central focus.
Changing my life with a way.
The influence of the Beach Boys, particularly Brian Wilson's work on Pet Sounds, could be felt in the intricate vocal harmonies, something McCartney openly admired. Lennon, however, the song's brilliance lay in its emotional clarity. There was no irony, no surreal imagery, no experimentation for its own sake. Instead, the track relied entirely on melody, balance, and sincerity. And because it achieved such musical beauty through simplicity and precision, Lennon regarded Here, There, and Everywhere as one of the most quietly brilliant songs the Beatles ever recorded. A perfect closing example of the kind of songwriting genius that even Lennon himself could not deny.